Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to do a basic oil and filter change on any 2014 to 2024 at this point YFZ450R. So some things you're going to need. You're going to need 2 quarts of oil. This is kind of user preference. I go with the Yamalube High Performance 10W40. You need 2 quarts of that. You need Yamaha filter. There's nothing wrong with this filter. So I'm gonna put that part number down in the description. But I would recommend doing an oil filter every oil change just because of how cheap it is. I have a small measuring container just to measure out my oil. I have a funnel. You can use any funnel. Make sure these two are clean because you don't want to combine other oil with new oil you're putting in. I have some brake parts cleaner. You could use contact cleaner, carb cleaner, any sort of chemical cleaner. Obviously a drain pan. And keep some rags on hand. And then you're going to need a 3/8 ratchet, a 3/8 extension, a 12mm socket, and then you're going to need a 5mm Allen socket. So that's everything you need to do your oil and filter change. So now we'll get into how to do it. Obviously, first part you want to do is drain the oil. Down here, there's going to be a bolt right at the front and a bolt in the middle that's going to drain your oil. So there's 2 bolts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the 4-wheeler up and then I'll pull those bolts out and it'll give you a better visual of how to do it. Okay, so now I have the 4-wheeler flipped up on the back. I'm going to go ahead and remove the skid plate here. There's 4 bolts that need to be removed, and they're all a 5mm Allen. Now, like I said, you can use that ratchet, or if you have an impact gun, that's okay to use for this. Just be careful to get it in there and make sure it's not stripped. I'm having trouble with 1 bolt, so I'm going to take this off and then I'll show you what to do from there. Okay, so like I said, you got to be careful taking those out because you might strip it. And this bolt here, I don't know if you can see it or not, but if I can get it to focus, it is a little stripped out there. So I'm gonna have to get a new one when I put that saw back on. But at this point, you can take a look at it, your underside, you know, take a rag that you have and just clean it up a little bit. You don't have that skid plate off much, so to get under there and clean when you can is always a good thing. Okay, now that we got the skid plate off, we're gonna take both drain bolts and we're gonna just loosen them. So then when we put it down, it's easier to take out. This is where you're gonna need your 12mm socket. I would not recommend using an impact on any engine bolt. You know, it's just common practice. So take your ratchet, and there's a bolt right here, which is towards the front, and then right over here, which is towards the side with your shifter peg. You're just gonna take your ratchet and socket and break each loose, twist them out a little bit. The one near your shifter peg, take your extension off if you have used it, and just break it free. Put your tools off to the side for now. So now we have them broke free. I'm gonna bring the 4-wheeler back down, put the drain pan under where we're gonna be draining, and then we'll pull the drain bolts out. Okay, so we have it back down on the ground. I have my drain pan placed. Now I'm gonna take this bolt right here that we had already loosened. Pull the oil out of that. Look at your oil as it's coming out. This one looks clean. This is an early oil change for this model or this machine, so that's what we like to see. And once that one is just about like that, barely coming out, we're gonna shift this pan back. And then the other oil drain bolt is right here. Pull this forward. Then we're just gonna take that out. And let that drain in the pan. So what I like to do is, I like to leave it drain for 5 minutes. One thing I forgot to tell you is warm up your engine beforehand. I mean, you don't have to, but if you're wanting to make this a little quicker, get the engine warm, it'll heat up the oil, come out a little bit easier. So I'm gonna let this sit for about 5 minutes, and then we're gonna go over and do the oil filter. Okay, so I've had my oil draining for about 5 minutes. I haven't put the drain plugs in yet, but we're gonna be doing the oil filter, which is located right in here. So this is where your 5mm Allen's gonna come in handy again. Like I said before, I would stray away from using any power tool to pull this off. Just do it by hand. It takes an extra 4 minutes or so. So you're gonna break. I like to break all of them free first. And once I have them broke free, I will take each one out. Now, keep in mind where you took out each one, because you're going to want to put them back in the same spot. So just stay organized as you're doing this here. Some oil is going to drip out. Just have your drain pan still under it, so it'll be able to catch that there. And you're just going to pull this off nice and easy. Want to make sure all your O-rings are there. And once you pull your cover off, this is your oil filter. I just take it in a circular motion, and then it'll pull right out. So keep in mind how that came out. You have that open end facing out of the engine. So that's how you're going to put the new one in. Discard that one. And I'll just take a dry rag, make sure it's dry. Go in there and get some of the old oil out. Changing it all up, so we want to be sure to keep everything nice and clean. There will be an O-ring inside of your thing around here. You can take that out and inspect it, or just leave it in if you're not worried about it. I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to do the same thing with a rag and clean up the surface and inside. Like I said before, This was an earlier oil change than needed, so I'm not too worried, but always want to keep your stuff clean. Now we're going to take our new oil filter, put the part number down in the description, take that out. See how this open end is going to face out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my new oil and I'm going to rub it around the seals just to have that extra step of lubrication. Just dip your finger in your new oil and rub it around your seals, both front and back. And once you have it lubed up, you can push it in there. And then we're going to take our cover here, put it back on. Remember, like I said, I'm going to keep the bolts where you took them out from. Put them back just like they were. I'm just gonna make them tight again. With these, I just like to get them hand tight, just nice and snug. You're not going balls to the walls with this. There's torque specs in your manual. I'm not really worried about any torque specs right now. So after you get it all tightened up, just take your rag. You can use your contact cleaner now, which I'm going to do. I just want to get it nice and clean first. And I'm going to take my contact cleaner. A little bit will do. Remember, this is your contact cleaner, not the place you work for. Just get it nice and cleaned up, so if there are any leaks, you'll be able to see them. I got some on the frame here when it was draining out, so I'm going to take some contact cleaner and a rag and go along the frame. Make sure that's nice and clean. And that's it for your oil filter. Okay, so now we're going to get these two bolts here back into the engine. I'm going to do one at a time, of course. I'm just going to put them in hand tight, and then we'll put the four-wheeler up on its back again. Get them torqued down nice, and then put the skid plate back on. And once I have it up again, I'll clean off the bottom if there's any oil on it. And keep everything nice and clean. So now I'm gonna flip this four-wheeler back on its back, and we'll torque down the drain bolts, put the skid plate on. Okay, so now I have it flipped back. Take my ratchet here. We're gonna tighten these down, just snug, just like the oil filter. snug. Don't need to go too tight on that. Then we're going to take our contact cleaner again. Spray off where you put your bolts in. Any spot around there. The cleaner your engine is, the better. So now if you do end up, hopefully not, but if you do end up having a leak of some sort, you can see it nice and easy. Keeping everything nice and clean. That's how I like to do it. It's definitely not a bad idea. Now I have those tight, I'm going to take my skid plate. Take my skid plate and we're going to pop that. Right back into position. Snapped in. I'm going to take my bolts. Should have 4 bolts still. Take those. I'm going to snug them up, kind of the same tightness. Once you have those tight, you're good to go. Okay, now that we have everything else tightened up, your drain plugs are in and tight, your oil filter is in, your oil filter cover is in and tight. Now we're going to be filling the engine with oil. These engines will take 1.5 quarts, so I'm going to take the quart that I had already opened to lube the oil filter, and I'm going to put it into the engine. Put that onto the side. And then for this next one, I'm gonna measure out a 1/2 quart. So I have my smaller measuring cup right there on the side. It says 1 quart, and then half of 32 is 16. So we're gonna go all the way down to there. I'm just gonna pour until I get there. Keep checking. Almost there. And boom. Here we are, half quart. Put the lid on that, and save that for later. And I'm gonna take this and nice and easy pour it in. Again, it takes a quart and a half, whether you use Yamalube or Amsoil or whatever. Quart and a half. So do the outlet. Let it drain a little bit from this. And then I'll take it out, tap it, put it to the side. Take this, just wipe some things up. And I'm gonna put my dipstick in. It's up there. So now you're almost done. Now you're just gonna wanna let it run for a while and then check your oil again through the dipstick and add if you need. If not, then you're good to go. And that's how you change a YFZ450R's oil.